definitely Lisa Studebaker because she had I love Lisa. She had contact lenses and she put them in a
Uh-huh.
cup at night and said, "Don't drink from this cup. Whatever you do, if you get up in the middle of the night, don't drink from this cup." What did I do? I
You
got
drank
up.
Lisa
I drank from the
Studebaker's.
cup and dumped the rest out.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. That
I did, and so she had no eyes.
Welcome to the Courage Never Quits podcast, where members of the West Point class of 1986 tell their stories. I'm your host, Paul LaFontaine. My guest today is Patti Medina Harris, column number 43470. We'll hear about Patti's hydration using contact lens fluid and her success as a signals officer and teacher. As always, the views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and not of West Point, the Army, or any organization, most particularly the University of Florida. Patti Medina Harris, welcome to the podcast.
Hi there.
It's good to see you. I really enjoy these where we didn't get a chance to hang out at the academy, and we have a chance now to hang out. So I love these podcasts for that reason.
I'm constantly shocked and amazed at the people who come up on our class feed that I'm like, I've never seen this person. I don't know this person. Oh, this is my classmate. Wow. Okay.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of value in what you're doing for all of us. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So as we set this podcast up, you're coming off a cruise, so you have to start
yes,
there.
I have cruise hair.
You have to start there. You're coming in, right? What was the cruise and what's going on?
So we've been hitting it hard up here. And I'll talk about what we're doing up here, but we just need a vacation. So we planned this about 8 months ago,
Okay.
and it was just real good timing. We finished a bunch of projects, and it was time for relaxation. So we were real excited to get out. I like cruises. I haven't been on one in a while since before COVID, and when you do a cruise, you are on vacation. You don't have cell service. You don't. It's just that's what I like about it.
It's an
We went to the
enforced
West
discipline
Indies.
in a way, right? It's like it's forces you to relax.
It
So
does. It really does. So that was very good. So you can see I'm happy and smiling again. Before the cruise, I was not so happy and smiling.
I went on one cruise. I took the high calorie approach. Came back and I was doing a conversation for work, and the person when I came back didn't recognize me. So that tells you how the cruise worked out for me in terms of the caloric intake.
Well, that's why we cut them short.
One cruise.
I didn't do so bad. But I did go out and run 2 miles this morning just to make sure I still
just just to give you a fig leaf of dignity afterwards, right? So,
yes, make me feel a little good about it.
right.
Yeah,
That's
it'll
great.
be
Well,
okay.
you came off it looking still very relaxed. So we'll take advantage of the fact you had a little bit of a break. Now, am I reading it right on your LinkedIn? It says you're pursuing a doctorate in education. Is this right?
So yeah, I guess I need to update that. When I got out of the Army, did a bunch of different things. I had gotten my degree when I was at Fort Campbell in engineering technology. So my degree from West Point was applied sciences, electrical engineering, because I was going into the Signal Corps, and
Yep.
and so we did a master's degree in applied science, or it's basically applied sciences,
Mhm.
engineering technology, and which is manufacturing mostly. But when we got out of the Army, I did sales for Pfizer. I did this and that. I did work in manufacturing for a little bit, and that was pretty cool. And then we moved overseas. So in the meantime, when I ended up back in Florida as a single mom, I decided to go into teaching because it just seemed to fit best.
Saw
And
that.
I had an engineering undergrad, I had an engineering master's degree, and I had no education degree. So in that vein, I decided to go to University of Florida's engineering doctorate program. And
Okay.
I did all the coursework and then got a new job. So I didn't write my dissertation. And there's lots of us out there who
I
have
don't
not
think
written
you're
our
alone in
dissertation.
that. I've many friends Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that. But you found the job.
Yeah. Well, I did. I actually got a job with University of Florida, which is
I saw
interesting.
that. Yeah, so talk
Yeah.
about that. In the innovation lab, it said.
Yeah, I was in the classroom teaching science and engineering. I started middle school and then 6 years, and then went to high school,
Mhm.
and I taught engineering technology, which was a glorified shop class with computers, but with an engineering focus. And so we learned the engineering design process and problem solving and that kind of thing, and it was a lot of fun. But I things started to change in education that I didn't like so much, and I was going to University of Florida for my doctorate
Right.
degree, and they opened up and what's called the Innovation Station in Sarasota,
Okay.
and it's basically an extension office. So all over Florida, I don't know. I don't know if you're familiar with University of Florida, but they have extension offices in every county in the state. And
I
the
know that.
original, they're the land grant university. So the original thought was that this way our extension offices could provide support to agriculture in every county, because Florida was always a very big agricultural state.
Right.
So along those lines, then, I don't know why it took 150 years, but now we decided manufacturing is important, so we want to do engineering extension offices. So we were kind of the experimental inaugural extension office for
Extension
the
in
College of
engineering.
Engineering.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so they started. It actually, the timing was amazing because I was working on my doctorate there. I had connections at UF, and then the extension office was opening up in Sarasota, I was in Manatee County, so they're very closely tied together, those two counties. And the timing just worked out, and I interviewed. I actually emailed the professors at University of Florida from the College of Engineering, and I said, my whole life has prepared me for this opportunity to help you make this a success.
Everything has led to this moment.
As exactly, that's what I told them. So they were a little skeptical, but they hired me anyway because they
Right.
needed somebody to get things going. And I actually worked under the director. There were only four of us in the office. The director was the freshly retired CEO of a local manufacturing company, Sun Hydraulics. They're pretty big if you're in manufacturing, but
Yeah. I actually, my
yeah,
father was a hydraulics engineer, so I know the name.
yeah. So that was our director, and
It's great.
he called me up. He called me, said, "I got to get work done, and I need help. And you called them up, and you said you wanted to do this, so you need to come help
That
me."
alone, the way you applied, got you the
Yes,
job. Right?
pretty much. And they kind of created the job for me as
That's
they went
somebody
along.
who's had experience being around people who either get things done or not. Right? He intuited
Exactly.
that correctly. And how long have you been doing that?
So, well, I left that job 2 years ago, but I was there for 7 years,
That's right.
and
You were retired now. If that,
I am retired now. I retired early because I had other things to do. But anyway, I did that for 7 years, and it was a great experience. And it really was true that everything I had done kind of led up to that, because I was the workforce development coordinator. And
Mhm.
so I did everything from visiting, local industries to promote our master's degree programs and our certificate programs, which we're in the process of developing, to going into K-12 classrooms and talking to kids about engineering, little kids about engineering, and then recruiting in the high school engineering classrooms for the College of Engineering.
Good for you.
So it was a great job. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
It's been
And
a
and
lifetime of engineering because you started as the electrical engineer. Although I want to ask about the life sciences, we're gonna definitely get there because I was fascinated. I go before these as a courtesy and read everyone's background. I was like, boy, this is you know, what a life. So Bradenton, Florida
um,
is your hometown.
it is. That's where I got my nomination for West Point, and that's how Hope knows me, because Hope Donnelly was actually her father was my liaison officer when I
Really?
applied. Hmm.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've known each other for a long, long time.
And I saw a picture of you at Hope and Marco Nikituk at a Founders Day saying, "Where's everybody else?" So you guys are the last last people
Yeah,
standing.
that was the last one I went to. I guess that was a couple of years ago
Yeah,
already. I don't know
yeah,
where the time goes. My God.
yeah, yeah. That's great. Well,
So,
Hope's been really helpful getting this effort organized. So I appreciate her
yeah, she is
connecting us
amazing.
up.
Yeah.
So what was it? Bradenton, Florida. It is even mentioned in your howitzer that where you grew up is not at all like the Hudson Valley. What your howitzer entry? What was it about West Point that got you started or interested?
Well, so I actually grew up in New York, across the river,
Okay.
and yeah, and so I was born in the city, and I grew up in I don't know how to describe it, but just across the river, about 45 minutes ish,
Okay.
and I had been to West Point. You know, my mother was big on taking us to museums and historical sites and things, and I remember climbing around on the cannons when I was in high school.
Okay.
So I, you know, my dad was a New York City cop. My mom was a stay-at-home mom of 5 kids, and you know, I took the SATs and I started getting these invitations from colleges. And my father, the New York City cop who never went to college, he was like, "You're getting invitations for places like Harvard. I can't afford that." So, you know, I was given some good direction and guidance, and I was applying to other schools and scholarships as well. But I don't know what it was. I went to one of those recruiting things, you know, in White Plains, New York, and this was when I was a junior in high school, and
Right.
they had these cadets standing up there on the stage, and boy, they were in this uniform, and they looked so sharp, and they were talking in front of everybody, and they weren't even fussed about it, and I thought, oh my God, that's what I want to be.
I want to
I
be
don't,
that.
you know, it was like I was shy. I was the smarty nerd girl, and you know, it was everything that I aspired to be. So
Now, where
all
were
the
you
other
in
college
birth order? Were you the oldest or
oldest,
oldest of five?
the oldest of five, and so yeah, so I decided that's what I wanted to do. So that summer of between my junior and senior year, my family decided to move to Bradenton, and
Oh,
so
really? Okay.
I
So literally
I
one
had
year.
been,
Got it.
right. I had been to West Point and talked to the admissions people, and they said, "Well, you're going to have to do your application in Florida." And guess what? The two most competitive states in the country are New York and Florida. I'm
Right.
like, oh, that's really great. That's freaking what?
Dad couldn't even
You
gone to
know?
South Carolina and help me out here.
I know.
It's just as warm.
Yeah, yeah, no, I didn't have much to say in that. But
Right, right, right.
anyway, it worked out okay, and
Yeah.
I ended up
Well, that's
getting
where the
in.
smart nerdiness came in handy, right? Because those grades got
I
you in.
guess so. I
Now,
don't.
were you athletic at all in high school? Did you?
You know, I would have been, but it was a situation where I was the oldest of 5 kids, so
Yeah.
I was going home and watching kids, and you know, I so appreciated the the um the people at West Point that we sat down with because I didn't know anything about colleges. My parents didn't know anything about colleges, and I'm filling out this application and feeling really crappy because I'm like, I don't do the, I can't be in clubs. I don't have a car to drive myself to school to do these
Right.
things. I have to be home. I have to babysit and I have to work. And the admissions officer, I'll never forget, he said, those things are just as important to us because what they show us is your character and your responsibility and your sense of loyalty to your family. And he said, you know, never worry about those things. You put down and be honest what you've done. So
That's
I
amazing, given the
it
era and right.
I'll
That's
never forget that. And you know, even that little bit, this is so fun because even that little thing, when I went to recruit kids, I was going to classrooms and I was talking to minority students who were in the same situation that I had come from,
Mhm.
you know, and so even that was helpful. But that's how I ended up there. And
So your packet emphasized family responsibilities and your grades. What were you? What your SATs had to have been pretty high.
you know, my SATs were good. They weren't, you know, they were 1600, 16 mid 1600s.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Come
and
on
this is
now.
you know, this is the thing. it's everybody's talking about DEI, right? Everyone's talking about recruiting minorities. Everyone's talking about this and that. And and now I can look back and I can say, I don't know, maybe it helped me, maybe it didn't. I don't know, but certainly people were vocal about their thoughts
Yeah.
that, the only reason you're here is because you're a woman. The only reason you're here is because you're Puerto Rican. And I'm talking about professors at West Point
Really? What a tiresome
saying things
thing
like,
that is. Yeah.
if I had my way, no women would be here. It was kind of,
Yeah.
what do you
Well,
do when you're 18 years old and people
we
are
were
saying that stuff,
you were the sixth, you were in the sixth cohort going through of women,
six
right?
or seven, I don't know what 80, yeah. So, um,
Yeah. Right.
so I don't know how I got in. I know how I got in. It was God put me there. That's all I can say.
Right.
Because
Right.
even going through the process with my sons, it's a
Two
black
of
box.
whom have gone
Even
to
at
West Point.
yes, and
Two of your sons have
even
gone.
at University of Florida,
Yeah.
they will flat out tell you in admissions it's a black box.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't know. We don't know. We don't know how they choose who they choose. So, um, that being said, I ended
Yeah.
up there and I was happy to
Well,
be
yeah.
there.
Okay.
You
So
know,
you saw the cadets on stage, said, "I'm going to do that."
I'm doing that.
Got in. You were advised. Our day, the actuality of it. How did it hit you? What was the? What, how'd you take
I'll tell you a funny story.
it? We're here for the funny ones.
I remember standing in line in front of the cadet with the red sash,
Mm-hmm.
and you're all looking around, right? You're kind of looking around because you want to see
Right.
where you are and what you're doing, and of course they yell at you, right? And I remember being yelled at, boy, and he was just in my face, and I just stood there looking at him, and I'm like, do you know I'm the daughter of a New York City cop? I'm like, first of all, you can't yell louder than him. Second of all, you're not even as
There's
tall
no
as
amount
me.
of yelling you
And
can
third
do
of
that's
all,
going to
you
be.
can't hit me. So I'm good. Go ahead and yell.
That's
And
fantastic.
I'll never forget that about our day. It just, it's like, do your worst. I'm here and this is where I'm going to be. And,
I'm
and,
in. Yeah, you got me.
and
Yeah,
I'm going to do this. And I'm just strong willed enough that there wasn't anything they were going to do to make me change my mind. And then I'm glad God made me that way.
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And then, so Beast Barracks, who was your roommate?
Mialko Newell and Lisa Studebaker. Was I roommates with Miyako? How did I know? I thought I was roommates with Miyako. I'm pretty sure. I don't
Uh-huh.
remember, but I knew her from our day. Um,
Okay.
Definitely Lisa Studebaker because she had. I love Lisa. She had contact lenses, and she put them in a
Uh-huh.
cup at night and said, "Don't drink from this cup. Whatever you do, if you get up in the middle of the night, don't drink from this cup." What did I do?
You
I got
drank
up
Lisa
and I drank from the
Studebaker's.
cup and dumped the rest out.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. That
I did, and say she had no eyes. It was awful. I didn't know what to. I'm like, oh my god, what do
you
I do
drank
now?
Lisa
There's nothing you can do.
Studebaker's
You're in
contact
Beast
lens.
Barracks.
You
It
drank
was
Lisa
awful.
Studebaker's contact lens.
I did. Ask her. She'll tell you.
How did she handle that as a?
Oh, she was mad. She was mad. And I'm like, you're right. You should be mad. You told me. I didn't know. I don't know. Beast Barracks.
And this was in Beast Barracks to boot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did she have to go to the traditional eyewear?
I think she did.
I'm sure
I
she's
think she
pleased
did.
with that. I'm
No.
hoping there's some pictures. If we had a picture now to show Lisa in her traditional
Oh,
eyewear, it'd be a great
I don't
moment.
know. I'm sure she remembers that though. If she doesn't, maybe I shouldn't have reminded her.
We'll have to track her down and get her side of the story.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Ugh.
Did you make up over time? Did you guys end up friends?
I did. At the end of Beast Barracks when we had a little freedom, I bought her a new pair. I
Right.
felt so bad, like so bad. That was
All's well
awful.
that ends well, Patty.
Yeah. No, she forgave me. So
That's all that matters.
although we did have to fight it out with the pugil sticks.
Right. Well, there you go. By the time you actually bought her the new set, she'd
Yeah,
already
she got.
worked it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, all these memories I like that I don't even think about now. All of a
that
sudden, me
is my
back.
favorite story. That's true. That's fantastic.
And then I did that
D3.
to my roommate.
You ended up in D3. How was that company?
Hmm. Oh, Delta Heat.
Delta Heat.
That was.
Did D3 style itself as a bit of a haze company when you went
Ooh,
there?
it was a horrific haze company. They
Really?
were, and
Oh,
F3 was
interesting.
probably a little worse, but D3, yeah, they decided
They were going to bring the
to
heat.
they were going to bring the heat,
And
and
what
boy, they
class
did.
was that? Because that usually was one class decided they were going to be upholders of the standards. So sometimes it was the cows, sometimes the firsties.
You
Which
know, I think it was a bit of a mix, but
bit of
more the cows. But I don't, it's hard to tell because remember, plebe year, the cow, you had much more relationship with the cows, right? They were
right?
really the ones
They're your squad
that were,
leaders, right? Yeah.
yeah, the firsties were like, they were, had one foot out the door, but there were some. Every company was different, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and it's funny because A1 was supposed to be, the toughest and the strack and all that. And my squad leader in Beast, first detail, was from A1. And he was the most professional,
Yeah.
most amazing person, most amazing mentor, that I could have asked for. And he even said, come, come see me when the academic year
Amazing.
rolls
Yeah.
around. And I did, and I did, it was that he was so much nicer than even the people in my own company, right?
Right.
So it just did everything, but I was scared walking around the halls, that's for sure. So
Yeah. And then where were you? You all lived in MacArthur Barracks over by where the library used to, or the library is, right on that side.
in D3,
I knew, yeah, because I
we
was
were
in
on,
I3. So anyway, it
we
doesn't matter.
faced
You were on that side, facing the plane.
faced the plane. We were on the fifth floor. Fifth
And I
floor.
asked because when in those barracks, when you stepped in the hallway, you could be seen for a very long distance. So the
Oh
haze,
yeah.
but
Oh yeah.
when you were in the divisions, sometimes you had a little cover, right? And I'm not saying that they didn't have a
I
negative
never
effect.
even knew that. Like I didn't know anybody in the divisions. And one time
Right.
I had guard detail over there. I'm like, what is this place?
Isn't that funny? Because I was
I
also in that long barracks format, the new barracks, and you go to the divisions like it's like just a museum. What's going on over here?
right. So you get used to it. We were right by the pizza place, so that was nice.
That's nice.
Yes. See,
You guys
well,
were
that was so D3. Yes, we were there, but we were by Central
Mama
area,
Bravas, Mama
Mama
Brava.
Bravas, and then
Yeah,
I was in C2, so we just went
yeah.
across
You
the
would see
plane
too. So where was
or
that? That was
across.
close
Yeah,
by. Right.
yeah. We C2 was first floor. Um, I don't know what that.
So there's your
Eisenhower
headline.
Barracks.
You were always pizza adjacent.
Oh yes, it was good. It
I
was
think that's
good. Good
brilliant.
place to be. So I got to watch out my window, when they did um, the hydroplaning and
All the
we have
hijinks
fun
and
in
the area
Central
tours. You
area.
were able to witness all the area tours as well.
Oh, I didn't pay much attention to that
Right.
bit until my son.
Then yeah. So
I
how
went
were
up
you
to
on
visit.
discipline and area tours? Did you get in trouble a lot, or were you keep your nose
I
clean?
never did a tour. I got
Never did
lucky.
a tour.
I got lucky.
You you're a north star for the rest of us. I mean, because
Oh no,
even
I
I
got
with my
lucky.
furtive ways and my sneaking around did 4 area tours, and they were
I
painful. You didn't do a single tour.
I
You got
didn't.
a few demerits, I imagine.
I got demerits. Sure, I got demerits. But I never had a area tour board or anything like
Good for
that.
you. Good
I
for you.
was scared out of my mind. I was scared to death. I find, and I saw my sons, right? And I'm friends with lots of guys. You guys are you're like my brothers, right?
Mhm.
But the cavalier attitude of many men who went there, including my sons, versus me who went there thinking I had one foot out the door. I was getting kicked out, and I lived in this state of pucker the entire 4 years I was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So, and I struggled with academics surprisingly. So my
Really?
first semester, yeah, this is, I'll never, I was so like, do the right thing, right? And always strive and do your best and work hard. And so when I got there, and you remember they gave us all those tests right? They gave us the
Sure.
test at the beginning or during
Yeah.
the summer to
To
place you.
validate out of
Yeah,
certain
validate.
classes.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm like, I took AP calculus, and all this. So I'm taking those tests, and stupid me, I do the best I can, and they put me in section one,
Yeah.
two of like I validated 2 semesters of calculus, and they put me in, and I'm
Yeah.
like, we
Yeah.
remember that really fat Anton textbook that we had, and it was a 4.5 hour class. We had a chapter a night out of that book, a chapter a night, and I wasn't that good at calculus to start with, but to do a chapter a night out of that book. And so about halfway through the first semester, I went to my professor. I said, I can't do this. Look, not only am I failing your class, I'm failing all my other
Everything
classes because
else.
I'm
Yeah.
not doing any of that homework either. This is like I'm dying here. Please put me in like some, in another section. And he says, well, you have to fail the first test.
Which is very helpful. Right.
So I'm like, so I have to fail
You have to fail. You can't
to
raise your
get
hand and
into.
say, I'm out of my depth. You got to go
So
ahead and ruin the grade.
I'm not even kidding. So
So military. I
I
love
did
it.
yeah, I did bad enough on the test to be put down. So I only got out of one semester. I got on track and I did okay. But the meantime, the end of first semester, I took all my exams and I knew I was not going back. I knew I failed everything. I just knew it.
Okay.
And boy, I spent the rest of my time there climbing out of that
I mean,
hole.
out of that hole. Yeah.
But it was okay because it didn't matter as long as I was still there, as long as I could still graduate. I was from there on. It was 2.0 and go. That was my whole goal
2-0
in
and go.
life.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought this up, this sectioning, and particularly the fact you've done your coursework on education. So, could there possibly be a system that encouraged not standing out than that
I
ranking system? Because basically, if
would
you
have liked
stood
to
out
have
and did well,
learned.
you get put into harder work. So it's
Yes,
how
they
to.
did that. Spanish too. Okay. All right. I'm not going to say anything disparaging about anyone I knew at West Point. I'm not going to do
Go
it.
ahead, let her rip.
However,
There's only 80
I
people watch this anyway.
no, I knew people who went to the Defense Language Institute
Mm-hmm.
and were fluent in certain languages and who were in section one of that language
Yeah,
just so they could get an easy A.
yeah.
And here I am. I'm in like advanced Spanish, and I'm like, I know. Okay, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm sorry. I look Spanish, but no, I don't speak it. All I wanted to ever do was speak Spanish because I grew up with it. Right, my father was full Puerto Rican.
You
My
know,
family
Patty, they
that was
should
like
have had a section that was you look like you should speak it, and then
I could
you'd have
do.
aced it.
Look, I could do math all day long, but I could not learn a language. And I grew up with mi abuela teaching me the alphabet and the numbers, and I was little, and I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, and I still couldn't. And they put
Couldn't
me in this
speak a
advanced.
lick of it.
Me and Jerry Sornelli. We sat next to each other in Spanish class,
That's
and our
funny.
teacher would just, blah, blah, blah. She was a native speaker, and we would just look at each other like, what the heck did she just say?
And, like,
But look, I'm not a language major. I'm an engineer, okay? I'm taking a language because they told me I had to take a language. This is not my priority. My priority is I'm trying to get through physics and chemistry.
that's fantastic. I love it.
I'm like, what did I do? This is stupid. This is so stupid.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
just trying to do the right thing.
I don't think they gave us the navigation manual. You had to kind of bump into the walls yourself.
They
But
never did.
now, what is life sciences electrical engineer? Is that electrical
Oh,
engineering or what's that?
applied sciences. So applied
Right. Sorry.
sciences is kind of general engineering, and then so we took everything. I took fluids, I took juice, I took mechanical engineering. I took all the engineerings, and then my junior and senior focus area was electrical.
Got
So
it. Okay. So
I
was there
didn't
an
take
electrical engineering major?
it wasn't a major because I was short a couple classes for it to be major because I took more of the general
Right.
engineering
Or were
classes.
there were classmates of ours who got a major in electrical engineering?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So I took a couple things, and I don't regret that. I took
I think
a
it's
couple other classes like engineering economics, and some other things that were more in manufacturing geared versus the pure design engineering.
And
And
did you find your level in terms of after you get out of that hole as a plebe? Did you find your
I
academic
did.
level?
I got my grade point average up. I think I graduated with like a 2.3. It wasn't great, but it was.
Great.
I was stoked because first of all, you know, electrical engineering isn't the easiest way to go, but it's what I
No.
wanted to do. And I remember being in the in the depths of Barth Hall with all these guys around me and I think there was one other girl. Who was the other girl who I don't remember who studied electrical engineering with me? And it was just and they were all so freaking smart. I thought I was smart in high school, but I got to West Point, I'm like,
It was
these
shocking,
people are
wasn't it?
so smart.
Yeah.
They're so smart. And I mean, I would sit in some like signals and systems class and they'd be asking, I'd be busy writing because that professor, boy, he had two rows of blackboards, okay? The one on top that he had to move like with the pole, right? And he had two rows and they were
How
already filled
irritating was
out.
that?
4 walls around the whole room. Four
You've got two
already
blackboards.
filled out.
I've only got one piece of paper. How does this work?
I spent the whole time just writing. I was like trying to listen, but I'm writing. I'm looking around like, why aren't you guys writing this down? I'm like, I don't even know.
It's great.
And it was, and they would ask questions and I'm just like, I don't even know what they just asked.
We must have crossed
I'm
paths in
gonna
those
fail.
engineering classes because I was in the engineering group too, and so we all kind of were in similar classes. And so at some point we were in
We
a classroom
probably
together or whatever.
did. You know, I took because
That's
I took all the engineerings, you know, all the basic
yeah. So
ones.
you
So any back then, right? If you were MSc, you took all the engineering classes. You didn't really have a choice.
right,
So,
right. So
yeah,
C2, how was that as a company? You were in the Hayes company as a plebe, went across the way,
I
no
was in
pizza
the
adjacent.
circus.
Yeah, tell me about it.
The circus.
Tell us about it. Yeah.
It was awesome. It was you know, it was I love my roommate was Julie Del Giorno,
Yeah.
Phyllis Erkins.
Julie DG,
It
a Hall of Fame basketball player for the Academy.
yes, I
Yeah.
don't know how she did it, boy. She was always. I'm like, when do you study? I don't
Right?
like. She worked so hard, and you know, we were on the first floor, and it was a very you know, people in that company they worked hard, they studied hard, but they were really supportive and really you know wanted to have fun, and it was nice after such a grueling you know
Right.
plebe year
Right.
to go there and have that, and it was nice as an upperclassman too because I didn't feel like you know I have to be a jerk. I can just be me and worry about my things, you know. So it
Right.
was you know some of those companies. It never occurred to me when I was there in F3 or D3 that you know maybe people don't want to be this way, but they feel like they have to. You know how miserable is that? So yeah, C2 was good. I love that
That's
company and
great. That's great. Who were
um
some of the notables in it from the class? You mentioned Julie.
um oh gosh. You know, a lot of them. I Daryl Londo,
Daryl. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, John Guy, John Grushner. These are my
But
peeps.
Gresh, he was my roommate as a plebe.
Okay,
I
yeah,
went to Gresh's 60th birthday party down in Florida.
I missed it, and you know
Yeah.
he's over in Daytona. I've been over there, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
about 4 hours from where I am, and
Shocked
it
him because
just
I
was
showed up. I hadn't seen him for 40 years and I showed up. It took
that's
him like a
awesome.
full 30 seconds to when he got it. And the
Yeah,
Greshner is fantastic.
Gresh. I'll
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah.
a funny Gresh story.
Sure. We all have them.
We so and it's not that fun. You know when Mike Endres died. He called me up and he's like, "Are you going?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, yeah." And he was a good friend, and so we decided to get a hotel room up there together. He's like, "Hey, you know, I'll book a flight and we'll meet at the airport and we'll drive up there and
Yeah.
we'll just share a hotel." So so I'm like, okay, you know, I'm good with that. So you know, after you go through West Point and all that together,
Yeah.
what? So we get I meet him at the airport. I got there ahead of him and I got a car and we drove up to we stayed somewhere close by Stewart and we get to the hotel room And, he was an FBI agent, right?
Right, right.
He starts pulling out all these guns. Like, Crash, what?
Right.
You just got off a plane with all that? How did you do that? And why?
Like,
And why?
he's
I
like
mean, like,
Yosemite
4 or 5
Sam.
guns.
Gresh
He's
is
pulling
pulled
them out,
out.
putting them in the safe. I'm like, what on earth do you need all of that? He's like, well, I'm always an FBI. I'm always on duty. I'm like, what? One's not enough? Good God. And
It's
he's
like,
little, he's not even that big. I'm like, where did you even hide all those? And so
Gresh, why do you need pearl-handled revolvers? What is going
I'm
on
telling
here?
he I love Gresh. We had a good time.
We had a
He
lot of
was.
fun. And the Greshner family was like an institution because everyone would go down to Florida for spring break. And so when
Oh
I went
yeah,
to his party, and we're going on about it, his father was there and he remembers all of us. And he talked,
really.
oh, it was great. He remembered when I visited after plebe year, he remembered, and he said of all the memories, the guy who ate him out of house and home was Roger Dean Karstens. He said Roger ate everything in the house.
Oh, that's funny. He was in B2, so he was right up there.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember. Oh my God, I remember Roger.
So
Him and
yeah, yeah.
Jerry Sarnelli and a couple other. They would come down to our floor and they'd have water gun fights.
Yeah, yeah. I went with Roger first semester plebe year, then Gresh second semester because those are two of my good buddies. Yeah. So you
Crazy things in that barracks.
stayed off the area. Like a broad engineering curriculum with electrical in there as a concentration. Signal Corps. Did you choose Signal Corps?
I did.
You did.
I did. And,
Signal.
I'll tell you what, it was the one thing out of that academy that they let me have because everything else, I never got CTLT. I never got anything. I never got to, because my GPA was so low, right? They sent me, I wanted to go on to CTLT and be a lieutenant in the Signal Corps. And,
Right.
yeah. And they're like, no, you're going to jungle school.
You are like the fourth person who said, yeah, I wanted to do just like regular CTLT. Nah, you're going to jungle school. What did you, was it like all the recalcitrants down there?
Insane. So, yeah. But they gave me Signal Corps. Thank God. I don't know.
I feel like I missed out on something that I wasn't sent there because it seems like you got all the cool kids went to jungle school.
I get all the bottom of the barrel because nobody chooses jungle school. Like nobody chooses that.
Right. Nobody chooses. You all look at, that's funny.
And it was wild.
So what do you think about when they walked in that room and they showed you all these snakes and stuff?
Oh my God. That was the first day they took us in that cave and they're like, okay. And they're like, just pay good attention because, it's a dangerous place here. And they showed us all these things that were going to kill us. Everything that was going to kill the vampire bats and the fertile snakes that are the fastest snakes and they'll bite you 500 times before you even see them and they're poison. And then the frogs, the tree frogs, that's what scared me the most because those tree frogs, those poison arrow frogs, right? Yeah. Because a dot of their poison as big as the end of a piece of hair would kill 10 men. And I'm thinking, and if they get it from their sweat, and so don't make them nervous. Don't make the frogs nervous. What happens if they're up in the trees and they're nervous and it starts raining? Does that stuff fall in? It was awful. You don't even, you're making your hooch and you're like, oh my God, could a bat get under there? You're checking your hooch to make sure nothing can low crawl under your. But then after about probably the first 3 days, you just didn't care anymore. It's like, yeah, okay,
you're just tired and miserable and like, frog, take me away.
Yeah, it's like whatever.
Tree frog, where are you? Yeah, I need a hand. So was that all you did that summer? Was jungle school, or did you do a DCP?
No, I did DCP. I was in Alabama. What training was there? Yeah, that sucks.
The Signal Corps, you nailed it. I want Signal Corps. I got it.
Yeah, and I was glad. I actually my first tour was in Korea. I was supposed to go to Fort Campbell, and I talked him into sending me to Korea.
Yep.
And I went to a unit there called WSDK, It was Weapons Support Detachment Korea, which
Hmm.
doesn't exist anymore. So I feel confident that they won't throw me in Leavenworth for talking about it.
Yeah,
But
you know.
it was an artillery unit detachment that had a nuke mission.
Ah, right.
And we were to be able to transport a nuclear weapon from a pickup point to a Korean battery where it would be fired north.
Yeah, in defense
So,
of the South. Yeah. Well, you're
right,
not the
which
first person
amazed
who
me
was
because
in
I had
nuclear,
no
right?
idea that they
Dude.
had 155 and 8 millimeter or 8-inch rounds that were nuclear
Yep.
capable. Like I had no idea. And we weren't allowed to know where all that was. It was
Right.
a top secret clearance, and we only things that we knew. But I was the signal officer and the only female officer there,
Right.
and I did the job of a captain and a lieutenant. I had to keep all the top secret code. I mean, live nuclear codes, right? I'm a lieutenant,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
have a vault, which is this big room with a big door on it, like in the movies with and you can lock it and unlock it
Yeah.
with the big. Yeah, I had a vault and a whole 4 walls full of safes, and we had 2-person material,
Well, you
and I
made it,
was in
didn't you?
charge of not only maintaining it and every month, destroying it and then getting new tapes and inventorying, but then I had to train the knucklehead artillery people how
Well,
to how
you're
to
like, what's
safeguard
funny?
it, take care, how to
Now, Patty, don't tell
how to
anyone
read the
else.
codes, how to decipher the code. I had to do
Yeah.
all that,
Patty, don't
and it
don't tell anyone else. We're just going to keep it between us on the podcast here, right? But all the artillery people say, "Well, I went into artillery because that's where all the smart people went."
okay. I remember one time we were in the field, and I was the signal officer. So on top of all this, right, and when we're in the field, they had to take their safes, their half of it, with them.
Yeah,
We actually had hasps that were bolted to the back of our trucks there. Back
yeah,
then it was the pickup trucks, right? The Cuckvies, the precursor to the Ford Excursion, whatever.
right.
And we they had a thing, and it was 2 locks on the back of the truck that the safe was bolted to. And one person knew one combination, one person knew the other, right?
Yeah.
And
But you were
and I'll
doing the
never
real
forget
stuff there.
because
Yeah, good for you.
yeah, I had a team that was out with one of the companies. And they didn't put up their long whip antenna, and they were wondering why they didn't have communication. So I had to go yell at them, and I go over there, and I look over, and there's the truck, and the safe's just thrown in the back of the truck. This is live nuclear material, nuclear codes, okay? Live nuclear code thrown in
Not
the back
supposed
of
to
the
do that.
truck. I go over there. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?"
The things you see. Yeah.
And this is why I'm saying no, they weren't. I mean, I don't know, was it lazy or stupid? I don't know. But then I had to go back and I had to like fire up the operations officer. I'm like, why aren't you upset about this?
Yeah, yeah. And you had to do a little
It was
investigation,
crazy.
I imagine, because anytime I was in
Oh
MI,
no,
so
yeah,
in a
no,
sub-compartment information facility, if there was anything left to miss, you had to do an
yeah,
investigation.
no, no, no. It was okay because it was still there.
Right. Right.
Nobody walked off with it. We're
Just
only on
rifled
a
through a
a
bit.
Korean site with Korean nationals, but it's okay. It was still in the truck.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
so we're good. We're good. But I did almost think I was going to jail one time.
Oh, what happened
Oh my
there?
God.
No tours of
Well,
the academy and headed to the Huska. What happened
I
there?
was I was going Leavenworth. I was doing an inventory one month, my monthly inventory, and I was missing a tape. Like, how could this happen? Nobody goes in these? We go in this once a month. How could this tape be gone? I mean, I inventoried it for 3 days straight. I was looking for this tape, and finally, I had to tell my boss, and it was live theater wide tape. So they had to, that was back when you had the tape readers,
Yeah, right.
that's how
And
you
this tape
secure.
was for the
Yeah,
nuclear stuff.
it was for yes,
Okay.
it was for the nuclear, the
You don't want
top,
to leave that laying around, I think is the point.
and I'm like, where could it have gone? They were little safes like this, right?
Right.
And the theater had to destroy that tape and move it up one, and it was a
Yeah.
big deal, and it was really embarrassing for my boss and all that. So then I had to go through and I had to change all the combinations
Hmm.
and and reset everything. And I found the tape.
Really?
It was inside. There was a back that slipped off of it, and the tape was up inside. Somehow, when we slid the tape, it got up under in there. But it was a couple of
Well, at
weeks where
least
I knew I was going to Leavenworth. I'm like,
the tape
top
was
secret tape
secure, and
missing.
in the end of the day, you found it. So but yeah, those are
Yeah,
stressful
so
moments.
it's too late. It was embarrassing.
Yeah,
That
well, of course you
was
went
probably
through the
the low
whole.
point of my career. That was I thought I was
Well, it would have gone a little lower if you ended up in Leavenworth.
that it would have, but thank God that was the low point.
Small favors, and that's your lowest point. But now
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
picture of you on Facebook, unmistakably in desert camo with a captain's bars on, and behind you is a row of Humvees in desert camo.
Mhm.
So how did you get over there?
So I was with the 101st Airborne Division. I
101st.
was with the MI battalion there, and we got deployed while I was
Good
there.
MI battalion. That's great. I deployed
Yeah,
in MI
yeah.
battalion.
So I had, as a signal officer, I had never spent time in a signal unit. I
Really?
was in an artillery unit. Then I went to Fort Campbell and I was in an aviation unit, which was wild. That was so much fun. Blackhawks, and then they did away with the lieutenant job there, so they sent me over to the MI battalion. And it wasn't until I got promoted to captain that I was in my first signal unit, and
What was
that
your
was
role with
wild.
the MI battalion? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I went over there as their communications officer,
Okay.
and then I didn't have any company time, so they moved me over before I got promoted to captain to be the HAC XO.
Okay.
So when we deployed, that's what I was, the
Which
HAC
there were quite a
XO.
few of our classmates were XOs for that deployment, just because that was where we were in the cycle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I went over there, and that was fun. I ran the mess hall. I got to run the mess hall for Thanksgiving dinner. That was wild, boy. My mess
I
sergeant.
was the S4 of the MI battalion for the 24th, and I ran the mess hall for the Thanksgiving dinner. And yes,
It was, but there's so much food, right?
yeah.
And my mess sergeant, who, wildly enough, was an infantry. I think he was like a master sergeant or sergeant first class. But anyway, I did DCP with him in Alabama.
Oh, really? That's
And
great.
then he ended up being my mess sergeant. So we deployed over there. We did, and those guys were awesome. They went into town and they got little barbecue grills, and they were up all night slow roasting those roast beefs over coals.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Our
It was amazing.
our mess sergeant was an astonishing human being, and I think he'd had some time training as a chef, and he was so good. It was crazy, and he delighted in giving the soldiers.
Oh yeah, those guys. They would do competitions. They had their own knife sets. They were phenomenal, and
Well,
they were
what we
just
did,
so happy to do that.
what we did in peace, he did all the time. Peace, war, whatever. They were always making sure that everyone was fed. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
101st, and then
Mhm.
I saw you got a degree you mentioned you got a degree at Fort Campbell, so you got a degree before you went over to Desert Storm. After, how did that
So
work?
I say we because my Darren and I were working on it together. We were doing 2 courses a semester, and we started that as soon as we came back from Korea. And we were on our
Okay.
last semester before writing our paper, our research paper. So we were able to. I mean, we were we were studying for this really highly technical course, and we we didn't even know that the 101st was being like locked down and called up, and we're studying, and we get this call from his mom, and she's like, "You guys are going to war. When are you leaving? What's going on there? Tell me what." And we're like, "What? We're studying for a test."
Yeah, you've interrupted my study session.
Yeah. So it was on CNN before we knew. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, we were done with everything except writing the research paper. So when we came back, we actually both got out of the Army at that time.
Okay.
Did our last semester, wrote a paper, and finished the degree. So that timing worked out really well. And it was good that I did that because, interesting enough, in Florida, when you teach a course, you're paid extra money if you have an advanced degree in whatever you're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, there's not a lot of teachers who are engineers who teach engineering.
Huh.
Mostly art teachers, shop teachers, whatever. But second of all, you never see somebody with a master's degree in engineering technology, which is what I taught.
Right.
So that was that was very
It worked out
fortuitous.
for you for sure.
It really did. So
So
it
talk
was
about we always have to make sure we pause and take a break for the children, right? So would the children come after this period?
When I was sitting in the desert, we had planned to get out at 5 years
Right.
because he wanted to go work on Wall Street.
Yep.
And I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And I would have stayed in, I would have had a career, but we were married and I did want kids. And I remember deploying, and one of my sergeants, one of my signal sergeants, had a baby. She had a baby girl that was just a couple months old. And she had to leave that baby with the babysitter in order to deploy. And I remember her panicking when we got on the ground. I need to get to a phone. I need to get to a phone. I got to make sure that my parents got my baby.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't know what to do. I finally found the chaplain and it made such an impression on me. And I just said, I will not do it. I will not have children in the military. Because I could never put the mission of the military before my children.
Right.
So we got out, and that was part of my reasoning anyway. And and that's when I had kids. I was home. I was out of the workforce for about 10 years.
But you've handled that on your LinkedIn with such unbelievable savoir-faire. You say expatriate. I love that. I said that.
I was.
That is strong.
And my second
love
son.
That.
Yeah, so my
Expatriate.
second son was born in Sydney, Australia.
Right.
And we were overseas, and we, did
I read it right? You were in Thailand.
We lived in Australia for 2 years. He was born there, and then we went to Thailand, and then we went to the Philippines. We were there for another 2 years.
Talk
and
about
loved the Philippines.
living in those places. I lived in Europe, so I had the expat experience on the other side. Talk about living in those places. Kind of what did you enjoy about it?
I loved Australia. Very expensive. I loved Australia. I loved Asia. The people there are so amazing. But with kids, it's a great life. I had a nanny. I had a housekeeper. I had a driver. I had like all these things because the company pays for all that, right? We lived in this huge house in this walled village, and but I'm not that kind of person. So I would get the driver, and I'm like, let's go. And we would go do things, and we'd see. And I went all over the place. The volcano that just started erupting. I was down. I was down there by that, and I loved getting out. We did. We didn't go to Bataan, but in the Philippines, but we did the Malinta tunnels, and it just retraced like where MacArthur was, and went down in the tunnels, and they told the whole story. It was very amazing. Like, I was never a history person until I started going to some of these places and seeing them. Just like, there's nothing like experiencing, where things happened and especially things that were so pivotal in the history of the world, right?
Yeah.
So that was really cool, and I loved Asia. But it was time to come home when I walked into
10
my
years
kitchen.
is a good run, though.
Yeah, well, we were overseas for about 5 years.
5 of that was overseas, yeah.
Yeah, and then we were moving. We came back, and we didn't have a house, we didn't have a job, we didn't have anything. So there was some moving from here to there. With him looking for work, and then I had another kid, and then so it just added up, and 10 years was really when, when I had to go out and get a job. Yep. At that point, so it was. That's another reason I went into teaching, because my engineering, after 10 years, your engineering resume is really it's nothing. It's outdated. You don't know. Like when I took my master's degree, we're reading Duran, and we were talking about just in time and all that, and then I get back, and I'm looking at they're talking about black belt something or other. I'm like, I don't know anything about that. It wasn't what I did. So it was really outdated. And
if you don't think that engineering has fashions, just look at all the different manias around.
And the interesting thing about that is, I was talking to my son, my second son, Chris. He got a degree in computer sciences at West Point, and not computer sciences. He is a software engineer, and he has been out for 2 years and has been working on certifications, but cannot get a job. And here's why. Yep. And he's doing certifications in AI. he can't get a job in what he wants to do because AI is taking over, right?
Yep.
AI can code itself.
Right.
So the only job for engineers is to make sure the AI is doing what it's supposed to be doing, right?
So you mentioned early on, I mean, I logged it because I can use my brain. I don't have a chat GPT to do my thinking for me, that you're super busy now and you needed to cruise to take a break from it. So what is it that keeps you hopping, you and your husband now today?
So
Today.
During COVID, we're just like, you know what? The kids are all grown. They're all graduated. My mother lived down the street from me, and she died at the beginning of COVID, not from COVID, but it's like, we got nothing keeping us here.
Okay.
Let's go. So we started looking for property. That's what we did. We started looking for property, and we started in where we lived. And we lived, I have a house up in North Carolina, and we were looking up there too in the mountains. We were looking all over the place. But in the end, we settled on staying in Florida for a lot of reasons, financial reasons, homestead, and all that kind of thing, or my pensions here, the weather. But I started going up the coast from, basically the middle of Florida, Tampa area, and going up and up and up. And those areas are insane because the developers are buying all that land and building, right? So you can't get any kind of acreage. So I kept going up, and ended up here in the Panhandle, and where it's lovely. It's beautiful. I have 200 acres. I look around, I don't see anything but trees and grass and my little lake. And
so you moved to the Panhandle of Florida. You're not down in Bradenton anymore. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and I thought I would never leave. I thought
that's home.
I thought I would never leave. I thought I lived in paradise. And I came up here. And
what's the nearest town to you, just so we can get the class of '86 to come over there for a lemonade?
Yeah. So if you draw a line on the map of Florida between Panama City and Tallahassee,
okay,
we are right in the middle.
Okay.
So right in the middle of that diagonal. It's a diagonal.
So that gives an indication, because if you ask someone, how close you're in Ohio, where are you? Most people say, oh, we're just down the road from Cleveland. When you start with, you got to draw a line, you're kind of out. You're out in the middle.
So to be fair, okay, it's an hour to Tallahassee.
Okay.
And actually, 20 runs right through our town, and you can get on 20, and it takes you straight to Florida State University.
Great.
And if you go the other way and then south, you end up in Panama City. It's about 45 minutes to the outskirts. If you want to get out to the beach, that's about an hour. So an hour either way.
Yeah.
But you say an hour, but there's no traffic. There's no traffic lights.
It's an hour of good driving versus.
It's just a nice drive. It's not any of the things that cause you stress in living in an area like Tampa, Sarasota, Bradenton. That was crazy, man. And every time we go back,
the move that kept you busy getting there and getting settled.
So we had, it was such a change of plans. We had planned on retiring down there. We had bought a house that we did an extreme makeover on because it was termite ridden, and we were going to redo it, and we were in that process. And we had we had rentals in the area, and we had a couple. I have a house in New York, and I have a house in North Carolina, and we have some different places. And so we bought a house when my mother died.
You say that so casually.
Well, when we find good deals on real estate, and because the rental industry it's a cash industry, right? So we don't live high on the hog. We just invested in more real estate, and so but they all need work, right? Everything is like bargain prices because it needs work. So everything. So now we changed gears, moved up here. We did a 1031 exchange, which is an amazing tool for anybody who's got investment
property. I've taken advantage of a 1031 exchange myself.
Boy, oh boy, that was genius. I didn't even know that thing existed, but we did that, and we got this place without a mortgage, and so
that's
now
nice, isn't it?
It was important. It was critical because I didn't want this encumbered in any way.
Yeah.
And so in the process now, we are trying to liquidate all these other properties, which are all over the place. One of them, in fact, we had, when Helene came through, was it Helene that went up to North Carolina? I think it was. We got hit. We have our house it's in Tampa, lower to the southern Hillsborough County on the river in Ruskin. We have a little fishing shack on the river that we'd take the kids on the weekends and take the boat out and the jet skis. Anyway, that place got hit and got flooded up to the kitchen countertops.
Yeah.
And then it continued on up to North Carolina. And we have a house in Chimney Rock, North Carolina, because my brother had a restaurant there for 12 years, and he just sold it 2 years ago. And he was living in that house there. We had bought a house because in the restaurant business we'd never see him, so we bought a little house that paid $50,000 for it. And that, of course, you know what happened to Chimney Rock? It was decimated. It was. So our house is up on the hill. The whole street in front of us was washed out.
It's hard to conceive of what happened there unless you do. My wife and I drove through, and it's stunning the amount of damage that was done there. Yeah.
It's horrific. It's horrific.
So here's what I love about. I just want to call this out for classmates and kids at home, right? And this is what I love about classmates, and just so well done, right? You present yourself as a mild-mannered teacher who was an expert, right? And then suddenly it's like, well, then we own a thing here, and own a thing here. You're kind of a real estate magnate of sorts, who just happens to have done some teaching. So God bless you, right? And that's all I'm going to say.
I appreciate that. I can't sit still. I can't. We could have retired. We could have taken that money,
engineer to the
bought a little condo, and been happy and told all the kids, go make your way.
Well, good for you. I mean, but you lead with, I'm a mild-mannered teacher. But there you go. But that's. Those of us who are in real estate hear the bugle call of real estate, and I totally get it because that's my own story as well.
We've been doing it for a long time, and I'll tell you, it is the best way to make money. The best way, not to make money, to build wealth. The best way to build wealth. Hands down.
And I tell you that people think it's easy. It is incredibly hard work. So if you were to go back in time, any part of your life, and give yourself advice, and the assumption is that you'd listen to it, right? Because I'm not sure I'd listen to myself even. But if you were to go back at any time in your life and give yourself advice, where would you go and what would you say?
Yeah, so I don't think I would change anything I did, but I would certainly tell myself that no matter where life takes you, this too shall pass. And it's a wild ride, and you have a choice. You can sit it out and be comfortable, or you can take a chance and enjoy the ups and downs, and because the ups are higher and so much better, and the downs, well, you work hard and you get out of it. It makes you so much stronger, and it's okay. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a 4.0 grade point average. You don't have to do everything everyone expects. You just have to enjoy the journey. Sage
advice. I completely agree. That's very well said. Very well said. Patti, what a pleasure getting to connect. And even though we didn't hang out at the Academy, we're friends now. So fantastic stuff. Thanks so much. It's been great.
Thank you again for what you're doing. I look forward to meeting and catching up with our other classmates as you do this. It's a work of service to all of us, and so appreciated.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Courage Never Quits podcast, where any member of the class of 1986 who is willing to tell their story will be a guest. To get the word out and stay up to date on the latest episodes, hit the like and subscribe button. With over 900 living graduates, we have a lot of stories to tell, and you don't want to miss any of them. We'll see you in the next episode.